Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show here on the We Are Libertarians Network. If you notice, I'm not Brian Nichols. We are starting a series of some solo episodes from different great guests. Myself, Chris Goizetta, and those you may have become familiar with here on the Brian Nichols Show and the We Are Libertarians Network. Our hope is to bring you some shorter content every day, and that's going to get you prepared for the day. And that's what I hope to be able to bring to the table. So, I'll start with a little anecdote that's rang true for me for many years, and it's a story of two loggers out in the forest, and their job is to meet a quota of certain logs by the end of the day, and one guy, a certain number of trees cut down, essentially. And one guy, one of the two loggers, he gets right to it, works really hard, swings hard with his axe, cuts hard and fast with his saw, never takes a break, never stops. At the end of the day, collects his pile and says, "Oh man, beat that." He barely comes in above quota. But the other gentleman was seen throughout the day not, laying axe or saw to wood, taking some breaks intermittently. And at the end of the day, when he tallies up his haul and logs, shall you say, for the day, he had doubled quota. More than twice as much as the other man who'd worked harder. And the question was, well, how is this possible? I worked harder than you. I never stopped. And the second gentleman goes, well, there's your problem. If you don't stop to sharpen your axe, it doesn't work very well. And so our goal here is that I can give you a little something that's going to sharpen your axe every day. And get you prepared to take on this world for liberty a little better. So I want to start with a psychological study. It's often known as the inattentional blindness or selective attention study. Essentially what these doctors did is they recorded this video, and in this video there were 6 people passing a basketball back and forth to one another. And they bring in a study group, a testing group, and they say, we want you to count how many times that basketball is passed. And there's 2 groups, and they kind of mix and mash, and they kind of move around throughout the video. And at the end of the video, they ask the participants in the study to say how many times that ball was passed. Now, that was a pretty easy question to get correct. You just counted the number of times it was passed. But what made the study really interesting is that in the middle of the study, in walked a gorilla, a person dressed in a gorilla costume. Walked right through the middle of the people passing the ball. And guys, would you know, 46% of the participants in the study, almost half, never noticed the gorilla come into the frame at all. And there are new versions of this where the background changes color, and these percentages get even higher. And so what do we learn from this study about the way we interact with other human beings? And what I believe this study shows us is that what we focus on and what we pay attention to is what we're going to find and what we're going to see in others, in ourselves, and in this world. So basically, we find what it is that we're looking for. And so if we have assigned malintent to another person or another group of people, we're going to be monitoring their actions really closely. And it's going to be really easy to find those things that they do that confirm what we're looking for, almost as the counting of the basketball. But what's really interesting is that 50% of the time or greater, we don't notice the other things that person or group of people is doing that's very good and productive and valuable, and that might make us like them. Because that's not our goal, right? We set out and we had decided up front, we're not going to like these people. We're going to look out for these things that we believe that they do. And it leads to a lot of conflict. It leads to a lot of unhappiness. And I believe that is something that ultimately we can control if we have awareness as to what's going on. And so that's the goal here in understanding this inattentional blindness or selective attention. So I want everybody to go through an exercise really quickly as you're either driving in your car or listening on your jog or wherever you may be. Think about that person that you interact with that you have decided this is a bad person. This is somebody that I'm going to assign negative things to, and ask yourself, have I just been looking for that in them? And trust me, that's not always the case. There are people I've blocked on Twitter. There are people I avoid and don't want to interact with because, they tend to bring this sort of negativity into my world. But there are also a lot of others that you may want to ask, have I actually given them a fair shake of things? Have I potentially assigned this idea of I'm just looking for the passes of the basketball and I'm missing the gorilla walking in front? Now, here's a bigger question. Do you do this to yourself potentially? Do you wake up and say, well, the evidence has shown me that I am this person? Do you believe that you can't accomplish a certain goal or task that you've set out to, a mission? Do you believe, for instance, that you're not good enough? Well, if you are predetermined to look for those things, well, what you're going to look for in your life are all of those failures and all of those shortcomings. And it's really easy to breeze over all the things that you do really well. I'll give a personal example here because I only have personal examples. Right now, my house is probably a wreck. We just had to spend a night in a hotel because our air conditioner went out. We're back in today. The weeds in my backyard are taller than they should be, and I feel overall like, man, I am dropping the ball and failing as a father. And then I take my child today, and we're getting him set up with a babysitter, a daycare of sorts, and she tells me, man, I can really tell that I've been doing this for 20 years, and this is one of the most wide-eyed, awake, aware, smart, basically, babies that I've seen at this age. He's ahead of his milestones, and I go, man, I don't think about that. I guess in all of these things that I'm thinking about, oh man, am I failing as a dad? I'm seeking those problems out. I miss the gorilla in the room, and that is that my kid is doing really well, and he's healthy, and he's happy. So don't miss your gorilla that's coming through the screen, basically. And all of this may seem really, it may seem really abstract and like, are we really getting down to things that matter here? And what does this have to do with liberty? Well, here's what I think it has to do with liberty, and I'll end on this. Until we are able individually to make the unconscious conscious, the things that we feel and don't know that we do or feel, until we can make the unconscious conscious, it is going to continue to control our lives, and we will call it fate and luck, and we will blame something else. But the reality is, if we can take the time and awareness to study ourselves, to study those around us, and become more effective, well, then the things that we want to create in this world, freedom, compassion, liberty, Well, we're going to be able to do those things, but our first obstacle is ourselves. So hopefully this helps you do that. I hope you absolutely have an amazing Tuesday, and thanks for tuning in.